I never imagined that at 85, the people I loved most would make me feel like a ghost in my own family. But that's exactly what happened. My name is George Whitman. For decades, I built a company with my own two hands, raised a son I adored, and gave him everything I could. Now, in the quiet of my old house in Boston, I sit at my desk, fountain pen trembling slightly in my hand, writing down memories that no one in my family seems to care about anymore. On the desk beside me, there's a faded photograph of my son, Daniel, his wife, Melissa, and their little boy. Their smiles are frozen in time, but the truth behind those smiles has become something else entirely. My wife, Margaret, sits in the next room, knitting in silence. After 60 years together, we don't need words. We share a quiet understanding, though even she knows what weighs on me. When I visit Daniel's home, I ring the bell and wait. Melissa answers, eyes glued to the television, and waves me inside. Without a real hello, Daniel barely looks up when he comes home from work. Just a quick nod, as if checking that I'm still alive, before he buries himself in his phone. The only one who greets me with warmth is my grandson, Ethan. He runs up, eager to tell me about school, only to be silenced by his father's sharp, "Do your homework. Don't bother your grandfather." So I sit quietly at their dinner table, smiling like a man who belongs, even as I realize I'm invisible. They speak over me, around me, as though I were nothing more than the furniture. And when I leave, their eyes are already somewhere else, relieved that the old man has gone. Every visit adds another stone to the weight pressing on my chest. They think I don't notice? The sighs, the cold glances, the whispers when they think I'm out of earshot. But I do. I notice everything. One night, when I placed a basket of vegetables from my garden on their kitchen counter, Melissa wrinkled her nose. "Vegetables? We don't use this kind of stuff. We shop organic." She laughed, as though I were a relic from another century. I apologized. I always do. But that night, as I sat alone at my desk, pen in hand, I wrote a single line in my leather notebook. They think I am only a burden. If that's true, then perhaps it's time they discover who I really am. I never raised my voice. Not once. Even when Melissa mocked the pension I receive, $1,500 a month, George? How can anyone live on that? I simply smiled, nodded, and said, "You're right. I'm sorry." Daniel didn't defend me. He never does. If anything, he added fuel to her words, telling me I needed to face reality. And so I became the silent guest in my son's home, offering nothing but gentle smiles and apologies. But silence does not mean blindness. For 60 years, I ran a business. I watched partners, employees, and competitors alike. I learned how to read faces, how to weigh words, how to see the truth hidden beneath appearances. That part of me never died. And so, when Daniel fidgeted with the bills, he tried to hide from Melissa, I noticed. When she lingered too long on photos of luxury handbags on her phone, I noticed. When Ethan's eyes carried the sadness of a boy caught between loyalty and shame, I noticed most of all. Every detail went into my notebook. My pen scratched across the pages at night. Daniel's workplace, Alpha Advertising, Boston. Melissa's daily shopping trips, the brands she flaunts. Ethan's school schedule, his homework struggles, his bright spark, dimmed by his parents' dismissiveness. Margaret once asked me, "George, what are you writing all the time?" "Just notes, so I don't forget," I told her. But in truth, I was documenting everything, every cruel word, every dismissive gesture, every financial indulgence that betrayed their cries of poverty. The more I wrote, the clearer it became this was not just a family quarrel. It was a sickness, a blindness. My son had grown into a man who measured worth in money and status, and Melissa fed that weakness like firewood on a flame. And I had allowed it, mistaking quiet love for patience. One evening, after Daniel shouted at Ethan for defending me, my grandson stood between us with tears in his eyes, declaring that I was not a burden. I felt something shift inside me. I carried Ethan to the couch, wiped his tears, and whispered, "You're stronger than you know." And in that moment, I realized I could no longer shield Daniel from the consequences of his choices. That night, in my study, I opened the safe beneath the floorboards. Inside lay documents untouched for years, property deeds, stock certificates, accounts that together formed the true measure of what I had built. My son believed me to be nothing more than an old man scraping by on a pension. He had no idea that his entire house, even the ground beneath it, bore my name. I ran my fingers over the embossed letters on the deeds. This is not about revenge, I told myself. This is about teaching my son what it means to be a man, before it's too late. The next morning, I changed my walking route. Instead of the park, I walked past Daniel's office. I watched him hurry through the doors of Alpha Advertising, his shoulders tense, his eyes heavy with worry. Later, in the library, I pulled trade journals, financial reports, anything I could find on his company. The news was not good. Lost contracts, rumors of layoffs, whispers of collapse. At night, I pieced it all together. Daniel's inflated lifestyle, Melissa's disdain, the company's decline. Every page of my notebook filled with neat, deliberate handwriting, as if I were drafting the blueprint of a lesson only a father could deliver. One day, a young colleague of Daniel's, James Miller, spotted me at a cafe. "Mr. Whitman, isn't it?" he asked. I remembered him vaguely from an introduction Daniel had once made. James looked troubled. "I don't mean to intrude, sir, but I've heard your son talk about you at work. Not kindly. He complains, says you're a burden. Honestly, it makes me sick to hear it. My grandfather is your age, and I'd give anything to have his wisdom. I don't understand how Daniel can speak of you that way." I smiled gently, though my chest tightened. "He has his own pressures, James. His own struggles." James shook his head firmly. "Even so, a man should honor his father, especially a father like you." He handed me his card. "If you ever need anything, call me." When he left, I sat there staring at the name on the card. For the first time in years, I felt something warm. Respect from a younger man who saw me for who I truly was. That night, I wrote one final line in my notebook, before closing it with resolve. If they believe I am nothing but an ATM, then they will learn what a true ATM can do. The morning I chose to act, I did not dress like the invisible old man they thought I was. I stood before the mirror in my bedroom, fastening the tie of a suit I hadn't worn in years. The fabric still held the memory of boardrooms, handshakes, and battles won. My spine straightened as if those decades had never passed. Margaret looked at me from the doorway and whispered, "You look like the man I married? The man who built everything." I smiled faintly. "That man never left, Margaret. He was only waiting for the right moment to return." I tucked Ethan's letter into my breast. "Pocket? Grandpa, I'll always be on your side." Those words would be my shield. That afternoon, 2 envelopes left my hands. One addressed to my son's home, the other to his office. Legal documents, contracts, property deeds, my handwriting alongside the lawyer's signature. A message that could not be ignored. An hour later, Daniel called, his voice unsteady. "Dad, what the hell is this?" "It means we need to talk," I answered calmly. "I'll be there soon." When I arrived at their home, I did not walk. I arrived in a black car, my driver opening the door for me. My son and his wife stood frozen at the sight of me, stepping out, dressed not as the frail old man they dismissed, but as the man who once commanded a company of hundreds. Inside the living room, I spread the papers across their dining table. "Daniel," I began, my voice steady, "you believed I was nothing more than a pensioner. $1,500 a month scraping by. That was true of the pension, but it was not the whole truth." Melissa's lips trembled. You're lying." I slid a deed toward her. "This house, the land beneath it, both in my name, always have been. You've lived here under my roof, thinking it yours." Daniel's eyes darted across the documents, his face draining of color. "And more," I continued, placing stock certificates on the table. "Dividends, properties, accounts, investments that generate far more than you've ever imagined. My income, Melissa, is not $1,500 a month. It is closer to 2 million a year. Her knees buckled, and she sank into a chair. Daniel whispered, why didn't you tell me? I looked at him, my son, the boy I once carried on my shoulders, at the 4th of July parade, because I needed to know who you were without it. I needed to know if you could love me for more than what I gave you. And now I know. He lowered his head, shame clouding his face. I stood there, letting my voice rise, not in anger, but in the authority of a father reclaiming his place. You treated me as an ATM. Very well, then let me teach you what a true ATM can do. It does not give blindly. It does not reward disrespect. It chooses, and I choose not to be used any longer. Silence hung in the room. Even Melissa's defiance crumbled under it. I gathered the papers back into my briefcase, snapped it shut, and looked at my son one last time. You have two paths, Daniel. Continue clinging to money and pride, or start again as a man. I won't tell you which to choose. That decision is yours. At the door, I paused, placing a hand on the frame. Behind me, I heard Ethan's voice, soft,